Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Tetzaveh. Now, Perashat Tetzaveh is a very unique parasha. It's the only parasha in the entire Torah that doesn't have Moshe's name. From beginning, when Moshe is born, Perashat Shemot, all the way till the end of the Torah, every parasha has Moshe's name at least one time. Our Perashat Tetzaveh is the exception. Tetzaveh, Moshe's name is absent. Why? Very simple. Our parasha has nothing to do with Moshe. Our parasha has to do with the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, the clothing of the high priest. And we know that actually Moshe was supposed to be the Kohen Gadol, but it was taken from him. It was given to his brother Aharon. Different reasons, different opinions. Simply because, the simplest reason is because Moshe on Har Sinai, when he spoke to God for the first time, and God wanted to send him to free the Jewish people, Moshe was fighting back and forth with God, to the point that Hashem actually punished Moshe for refusing. He said, okay, you know what? Don't worry. You want Aaron to get something? He's going to get something. And it was given, he gave him the high priest, he gave him the Kohen Gadol. And again, is that a punishment? Was Moshe happy with that? But either way, the point is that our parasha deals purely with Kohanim. Moshe is not a Kohen. Moshe is the Levi. Moshe is from the tribe of Levi. Now you should know, today we have three different sections, right? We have the Kohanim sect, we have the Leviim, and we have Israel. But it's important to remember, all Kohanim originally come from the tribe of Levi, right? There was no tribe Kohen. Levi was one of the 12 tribes, one of the children of Yaakov Avinu. And then one of the children of Levi, one of the great-great-grandchildren, Aharon, he became Kohen, and from him, Kohanim come. So if you're a Kohen, first of all, you come from Aharon. That's for sure. And also, you're within the bigger tribe of Levi. So all, right, it's like saying Leviim are Jews, right? Two things are true. You could be a Levi and you could be a Jew. So if you're a Kohen, you're actually a Kohen, and you're also technically a Levi. You're from the tribe of Levi, but you're a Levi plus. You're a Levi plus, you're now a Kohen. You're higher than Levi. Okay, so you have Kohanim, that's why they get the first aliyah, because that's the highest. Then Leviim get the next aliyah, they're a little bit lower. And then Israel, that's us regular people, we get the third aliyah. Okay? Now, the Kohen Gadol, he had 8 beautiful pieces of clothing. I'm sure you've seen pictures, I'm sure you know what it looks like. And the Gemara tells us, in Masechet Zevahim, page 88, Pehet Amud Bet, the Gemara tells us something very, very interesting. The Gemara says, Amar Rav Inini, Bar Sason. He says the following, Lama nismecha perashat korbanot leparashat bigdei kehuna. If you look in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 7 and chapter 8, he notices that the topic of korbanot is juxtaposed to the topic of clothing of Kohen Gadol. That means that God, when he wrote the Torah, he put in the book of Vayikra the dressing of Aharon. Again, our parasha has the commandment to create, to sew, manufacture the clothing. But the actual dressing of Aharon, that happens later in the book of Vayikra. And it's right after the paragraph dealing with korbanot. So asks Rav Ainini, why are korbanot right next to the dressing, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol? Omar lecha, to teach you. Ma korbanot mechaperin. The same way korbanot atone. Af bigdei kehuna mechaprin. So too, the clothing of the kehuna atone. You have to know, says Rav Ainini, a very big concept, that just like when you bring a korban, what does a korban do? A korban brings a kapara. When a person sins, they come to the Beit HaMikdash, they bring a korban, and they're clean. Now obviously, a korban, if a person doesn't meditate, if a person doesn't do teshuvah, it's very, very almost useless, right? To just bring a korban without any feeling inward is like lip service. It's just like saying, Hashem, I'm sorry, but you don't really mean it. It's like saying to your wife, I love you, honey, I'm sorry for what I did, but you're not repenting. You don't really feel bad. That's just lip service. That's external. That means very, very little. Always teshuvah must come with inner teshuvah, right? If a person goes into a mikveh, right, I'm sorry for the things that I did. You could dip all day long in an ocean, in the biggest mikveh in the world, freezing Arizal, but if you don't actually do any meditation, if you're just dipping and you're planning to go right after to go continue sinning, what is the mikveh going to do? The Gemara says, imagine a guy dips in the mikveh holding a dead mouse. You think you're going to be pure? You're holding on to the sin. You're not pure. When a person does teshuvah, they have to let go. So says Rav Inini, the same way that a korban atones, so too the clothing of the Kohen Gadol atone. The clothing, we know he had 8 pieces of clothing, and every one of the clothing atoned for another sin. And like we just said, in Judaism it doesn't work like that. You just wear clothing and now everyone's forgiven. The idea is much deeper. The idea is that just like a korban, when it comes with understanding and meditating, when you see an animal getting killed and you realize that should have been me, I should have been that animal. I acted like an animal. What I did was animalistic. I was more connected to my animal than my soul. And look what happened. And a person learns from the experience and they come out better, stronger. That's teshuvah. That's what a korban is meant to accomplish. To just kill an animal and then you walk away, you're not going to get forgiven if you didn't do any teshuvah. And so says Rav Inini, the same way a korban with proper introspection atones. The clothing of the Kohen Gadol atones, and each clothing atones for another one of the sins. So as an example, the ketonet, the tunic, atones for shfichud damim. We know the Kohen Gadol had a very long tunic, like a robe that he wore under, right? The ketonet, that atoned for shfichud damim. That atones for murder. Somebody killed. So the robe atones for that. How? Because it says that they took Yosef's robe and they dipped it in blood. Remember when they sold Yosef? So you see that robe is connected to killing, to blood. Okay, very nice. And the michnasayim, he had underwear, boxers, right? The shorts. The boxers, they atoned for Gilui Arayot. That's easy. That atones for immorality, because that's where it covers. Okay. The mitznefet, he had a mitznefet. That atones al gasei aruah. That's the hat. What does that atone for? That atones for arrogance. Why arrogance? Because that's where it is. It's high up. Okay, nice. Avnet, the belt. Mechaper al hirhur halev. That's for the thoughts. The belt goes around the waist. The choshen, you had the breastplate. That atones for judgment mistakes. Okay, because it's called the choshen mishpat. It's called the mishpat, the judgment, the choshen, the breastplate of judgment. Okay, fine. Then me'il. Now he had, after the lower robe, he had an outer robe called a me'il. What does the me'il atone for? Me'il mechaper al lashon hara. The robe that he had atones for gossip. Why? What does the robe have to do with gossip? Again, he had 2 robes. He had the lower robe and he had the outer robe. So the lower robe was for murder. The outer robe was for gossip. It's very interesting that the 2 robes, the Gemara says that when you speak gossip, you're like killing the guy, right? When you speak negatively about someone, you have to be very, very careful. You could be killing that person. And both robes, the lower one and the outer one, they both attained for something of murder. The lower one for actual murder, the outer one for speech murder. When you speak, you're really killing the person. They're very connected. And it's important that we think, we have to be very careful when we say something, whether it's about business or about marriage. We have to think very, very carefully. What are we saying? Who are we saying it to? You could really be killing someone. What you're saying, is it just jealousy? Is it real advice? Is it something to be concerned about? Is it an opinion? Is it something that doesn't really make or break a marriage? One of my favorite stories about gossip. Today I want to focus on this topic of lashon hara, because I think it's something that we all struggle with. Everybody struggles with lashon hara, and sometimes we never enter a meeting or a conversation with someone thinking we're going to speak gossip, right? It begins very neutral, parv, hey, how's it going, how's life? And then all of a sudden, did you see that wedding? My gosh, right? Did you notice? They ran out of food? I don't know, maybe they're on tough times, or what do I know? All right, anyways. What else? How's life? Right? Just that comment. That comment alone is already lashon hara. You just spoke about the wedding a little bit, not in a nice way. So no one sits thinking, I'm going to enter right now, I'm going to speak gossip about everyone. Right? But we do it. We struggle with lashon hara. And Mesilat Yesharim in chapter 11, when he talks about the different sins that we commit man to man, he says that one of them is lashon hara And he says, he quotes over here the Gemara. The Gemara says that everyone, 99% of people struggle with Lashon Hara, but everyone, 100% of people, Vekulam be'avak Lashon Hara. Everyone struggles with avak Lashon Hara. Avak is the dust. Dust meaning, it may not be Lashon Hara, but it's the dust of Lashon Hara. You're very quickly going to lead to Lashon Hara. You're bordering Lashon Hara. Danger, danger, danger. Stay away. So everyone struggles with, for sure, avak Lashon Hara, and even Lashon Hara. And so it's important for us. What is, by the way, avak Lashon Hara? Gemara gives an example. If you say to your friend, you know where I could find an oven except for so-and-so's house? Back then you needed an oven to bake bread. Not everyone had an oven. Like today, it's a luxury. We all have an oven. Back then you needed an oven. So you would say, do you know where I could find right now an oven that's on? Besides for so-and-so's house, where else could I find an oven? Now, just that line over there was Lashon Hara. Because you're indicating that so-and-so, they're always eating. They always have an oven on. They're maybe not healthy or heavy or whatever it is that you're indicating, but that's already Lashon Hara. Or, if you say to someone the praise of someone else that you know they don't like. That's already Avak Lashon Hara. You're saying something nice. You say to someone, some people like to instigate. They like to instigate. So they start saying, they like to create mahaloket, they like to fights. So you're at the Shabbat table, and you have a friend or someone who's there that you know that they don't like so-and-so. So you start saying, wow, I was just by so-and-so's house, the guy, what a tzaddik he is. He's always giving, he's always so generous. And you're right now stirring. You're right now creating inside this guy's head. And it's going to very quickly lead to Lashon Hara, because he's going to say, what? You think he's generous? The guy's the biggest crook. He owes everyone money. He's a thief. And now, you see, so that's the dust of Lashon Hara. So we have to be very, very careful. My friends, we have to really be conscious. The Chafetz Chaim, he dedicated a whole book just to gossip. It's not an easy topic. Because actually, a lot of times, when it comes to Lashon Hara, we must say, sometimes you have to warn someone. If someone's coming to do business with you, and right, or your friend comes to you for a question, should I do business with so-and-so? Now so-and-so is a crook. It's a crook. He's not just one, in the past 20 years ago. The guy's a cheater, he lies. So you have to say something. You have to warn the guy. Right? Or marriage. If someone is controlling and anger, get withholder, problems in the past, previous marriage, and he didn't do teshuvah, and the guy is still the same guy, now a girl comes and says, hey, do you know anything about so-and-so? I want to marry him. What do you know about him? And you say, you know what? I don't want to speak Lashon Hara. You say, he's a great guy. What are you talking about? Great guy? You have to say. So that's why we're walking a tightrope. Very difficult, very complicated. I need to know when to say and then what to say. Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, one time his sister came to him, and he was the Rosh Yeshiva of a famous yeshiva called Kol Torah. His sister came to him, and she asked him about a certain boy in his yeshiva. She said, my daughter was recommended this boy. Do you know him? I assume you're the Rosh Yeshiva. You must know him. What do you think? Should I let my daughter go out with him? Is he a good boy? Good midot? Does he have good character? Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he said he's a fine boy. Yes, he's a good boy. Okay, thank you. Anyways, the conversation continues. She gets up to leave, and as she gets out of the house, she reaches the end of the block. She sees her brother running back, chasing her down the block. Come back, 1 second, come back. Okay, she comes back. What happened? He says, that boy you asked me about for your daughter? Not for you. Not a good boy. He's still going through stuff. He's not ready. He's not ready for marriage. She's like, wow, okay. Thank you for telling me, but what changed in the last 2 minutes? 2 minutes ago, he was a great boy. Now he's not a good boy anymore. So Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, look what he said. He said, 2 minutes ago when you asked me, we were in the kitchen. My wife was there. She was listening. She has no right to hear this information about that boy. For her, it would be Lashon Hara. For her, it's not relevant information. But for you, your daughter's on the market, you need to hear it. So I wanted to make sure that you got the information without violating the laws of gossip, so that from my wife hearing it. Unbelievable. Look at the sensitivity. Understanding that When it's allowed, but otherwise it's not allowed. And for my wife to hear it is not allowed. Not allowed for her to hear it. She has no right knowing. What does she have to know? She has no kids on the market. It's not relevant to her. So, for you, it's relevant. So, Lashon Hara is something very, very complicated. We always, struggling back and forth. What is allowed, what is not allowed. We have to really pay a lot of attention to make sure that we are studying the laws of Lashon Hara. But Baruch Hashem, today there's a lot of books on speech and studying the laws of Lashon Hara. And Lashon Hara, we have to remember, gossip, when we speak negatively about people, right? First of all, you should know that speaking gossip is a very cheap way of lifting yourself up, right? I saw that line one time. It's a very cheap way of lifting yourself up. Because why do we speak gossip? Why do we do that? Why do we talk about other people? This guy, this person, this one, right? Why do we do that? Right? Think about when we're sitting with friends. Why do we like to knock? Whether it's group, sometimes Lashon Hara can be about a group of people, by the way. When you knock groups of Jews, look at those groups, look at that group, right? When you knock a group of Jews, that's also Lashon Hara. Why do we do that? The reason we do that is really because subconsciously we want to lift ourselves up. Every one of us wants to lift, to raise. And sometimes the way we raise ourselves is by putting other people down. Right? I come home if I'm in a bad mood, so I make my wife feel like dirt, then I feel good. If I come home and I feel like garbage, I put I push my kids lower. And I feel like a boss now, and then I feel good. If I feel bad about myself, I could talk bad about the other people that are around me. Maybe I don't feel good about my parenting, but I don't want to look at so I look at my friends and I talk about how bad of parents they are. Or I talk about how bad of a marriage they have. Or I talk about how bad of Jews they are. And now I feel good about my Judaism. You see, I'm not so bad now. It's true, I don't pray, and I don't learn, I don't keep kosher, I don't keep Shabbat, and deep down I feel a little bit bad about that. But look at that person. And we knock down other people as a way of lifting ourselves up. That's very cheap, that's not going to last. You know, you never feel good at the end with that method. It's like eating candy if you're hungry. When you're hungry, you need to eat nutrition. If you eat candy, temporarily you feel good, your palate, but it's not going to last. After a few minutes, you're going to actually feel worse than before. You feel like, gross, why did I say that? Why did I do that? And when we speak gossip, we have to realize we're killing people. We're killing people. And we are lifting ourselves up in order to put other people down. That's what we're doing. We're putting other people down to lift ourselves up. We knock other people so that I look better, feel better. You know, the Chavot Avot, he writes something very powerful. My friends, you have to listen to this. Chavot Avot, I want to actually look for it. 1 second. He says, if I can find it, give me 1 second. Look at this over here. Chavot Avot, book written almost 1,000 years ago, Rabbeinu Bahye. Not the same Rabbeinu Bahye that we were studying in our Perashah class last year. Different Rabbeinu Bahye. They lived 100 years apart or so. Anyways, Chavot Avot, this is the earlier one. He wrote in one of his sections called Sha'ar HaChni'ah. Chapter 7, he writes as follows. Amar Ehad Kena Hasidim. He quotes one of the Hasidim. Many people, when they pass away, they're going to come to the day of judgment. They're going to show them all of their deeds. When you pass away, you stand in front of the heavenly tribunal, the court, and they show you all your life. In 1 second, they show you your whole life. You're good and you're bad. They're going to show some people good deeds that they never did. They said, I never did that. I think you got the wrong guy. I never did those good things. I wish I did. I never did that. Yomar lahem, they're going to say back, no. Asaotam asher deber bachem. It's true, you never build that shul, but so-and-so did it, and he spoke negatively about you. And all of his mitzvot go to you because he spoke about you. And similarly, and now that other guy, he's going to get to Shamayim, he's going to say, wait, 1 second, I built a shul, where's the reward? I say, no, you lost it, because you spoke about so-and-so. Not only that, some people, they're going to get to the heavens, they're going to give them punishment, a list of sins that they never did. We'll say, 1 second, lo asanu, I never did that. Why are you punishing me? I did a lot of bad things, but this I never did. Yomur lahem, they're going to say back, no, we added that, ba'avur ploni uploni, because of so-and-so, shedibarte mam. You spoke about that guy, you get his sins. You get his sins. Now, I don't know if that means that they get lifted from the other guy. I don't know if that's what it means. It means that you also get those sins. There's a difference. If I speak negatively about someone, I could get their sins, but he still has them and I have them now. We both have them. Or I take them from him. I'm not sure if he's saying I take them from him. It says, Nosfu alechem ba'avur ploni uploni. It says that you get their sins. Maybe he remains them. I don't know if he remains with them, but you for sure get them. Now, first of all, that's a wild concept. That's a 1,000-year-old book. That's not some new guy writing this. Okay, this is a big book, and he's saying that when you speak about someone, you get their sins, you inherit their sins, and they inherit your mitzvot. Wow, why? By the way, why does that happen? How does that work? Why should I take someone's sins just because I spoke about them? Right? Just because I spoke about someone negatively, why should I get their sins? But the idea is, my friends, based on what we just said, that why do I speak about people? I speak about people because I need to lift myself up. You see, there's 2 ways to lift myself up. 2 ways I could wake up and feel good about myself. Right? Right now, my friends, it's Adar. Right now, maybe we're not feeling good about ourselves today. 2 ways to feel good about yourself. Right now, today, here, right here. Either you can feel good about yourself by putting yourself up and by reminding yourself that you were good, that you have talent, that you are capable, that you do know how to sell, that you do know how to help, that you are a good mom, that you are a good friend, you are a good husband or good wife, a good dad, whatever it is, right? And you had a bad morning maybe you said something that you shouldn't have said, okay, but that was an anomaly, that was not the norm, that's right? That's once in a while, but really, I'm good. And I could remind myself how good I am, and look how capable I am, and look where I am in life. And I could, you know what? We all have little humps, we all have little downs. Okay, get over it. And look how good you are, and lift yourself up. That's one option. There's another way though. There is a cheaper way. The cheap way of lifting yourself up is by, again, like we said before, putting everyone else down. And everyone, when I put everyone down, now all of a sudden I feel tall. I'm not really taller. I didn't really change. I didn't grow. I didn't get taller. I just feel taller because I pushed everybody down. And so when I build myself at your expense, when I make myself feel good because of your flaws, because of your sins, when I speak about somebody, when I put down their wedding, when I put down their marriage, so actually my identity, I created a sense of self through your sin. So actually your sin contributed to who I am. I live off of your sin, off of your mistake. I need your mistake for me to be me. So actually your sin is part and parcel of who I grew to become. And therefore it's only fair that I should pay for your sin. Because your sin, I needed you to mess up. I like when you fail. Your failures, they give me fuel and steam. They give me the food, the uwe that I need to grow in life. When you fall, I feed off of that. Like you have certain animals, when they see a little cut, they come and they eat from that cut. Some people, they eat from other people's sins. They live off of that. They make a living. There's actually people literally that make a living off of people messing up. They roast. They just talk about all the things that people do wrong in life. When I live off of that, so I actually needed you. I needed your mess up. That's how I grow. I grow through you messing up. And so, it's only fair that I should pay for that mess up. Because that's how I became who I am. So that's why the Chavot Le'Avot says, that's why you inherit that guy's sins. Because those sins helped you become who you are today. That is unbelievable. That is a very, very powerful idea. And so one element of Lashon Hara is realizing that at the end of the day, I remember when I was a kid, there was one friend in the group. He always spoke about people. You knew. Whenever you were around, whether it was, other kids or teachers or whoever it was, you knew this kid was going to always roast. You knew he was going to always make fun of other people. And he got that reputation. And, he made you laugh. But deep down, no one felt comfortable. No one liked him because you knew it was a dangerous kid. It was a dangerous type of kid because you may be next. No one liked the kid. And actually, the person is still single today. Unfortunately, it's a person that is still single. Why would they still be single? They're funny, they're good looking. Why are they single? They're still single because in life, those people, they're very cheap people. Nobody actually likes those people. Nobody likes those people because, the lifting, right? Lashon Hara is not a real way of lifting yourself up. And deep down, everyone knows that person's a very, very shallow person and a very dangerous person. No one likes to be around those people. And so that's one idea of gossip. But there is another idea based on what we just said in our parasha. We said that the me'il, the robe, the robe of the Kohen Gadol, it atones for gossip. It atones for Lashon Hara. Now, why would the me'il atone for Lashon Hara? What does the me'il have to do with Lashon Hara? We didn't finish the Gemara. Coming back to the Gemara in Zevahim, Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Hanina, why? You know why the me'il atones for gossip? Yavo davar shebakol v'yechaper al kol hara. Let that item that produces sound, i.e. the robe produces sound. Why does the robe produce sound? Because on the bottom of the robe, there was bells. And inside each bell, there was pomegranates. So there was pomegranates and bells. Let the bells on the bottom come and atone for that person who comes and makes sounds with his mouth. So the robe atones for gossip, for Lashon Hara. And I remember Rabbi Bernstein over here, he has a very, very, beautiful idea. On the bottom of the robe, it wasn't like we said, it wasn't only bells, it was also pomegranates. And I think we learned from pomegranates something very, very beautiful. The pasuk says in Shir HaShirim, Kefela haremon rakatech mibad letzamatech. Shir HaShirim is a beautiful love song between Hashem and the Jewish people. It was written by Shlomo HaMelech. It's actually so deep that the rabbis hesitated putting it inside the book of the Tanakh. It's so deep that in the beginning, you actually misunderstand it. In the beginning, you think it's saying one thing that may sound a little bit actually perverted if you don't understand its depth. So the rabbis were about to not include Shir HaShirim in the Tanakh because it's a love song. And he's very graphic. And you could, if you pervert it, if you're not holding on a high level, you could hear what he's saying and then laugh and misunderstand it and think he's talking about a romance novel. Right? Today, you have there's a big draw to romance. And it could be inappropriate. You could misunderstand what Shlomo HaMelech is trying to say. And the rabbis, finally, they included it because they realized that it's Holy of Holies. It's the deepest of all books, the holiest of all of books. Kodesh Kodashim, Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. And in this book, Shlomo HaMelech constantly makes references between his beloved, Hashem, talking about us, and different metaphors. You're like this, you're like that, right? The same way today you would speak in a maybe Hallmark card. You would say you're like a cherry, you're like a flower, roses are red, violets are blue, honey is sweet, not as sweet as you. All of that came from Shlomo HaMelech. He compares his wife to roses and to all these things. One of the psukim is Kefela harimon rakatech. He says to his wife, your cheeks, they're like red like a pomegranate. Wow, you have the most beautiful cheeks. Now again, Shir HaShirim is not a romance novel. Shir HaShirim, if you went to a library, where would you find it? It wouldn't be in the romance section. Shir HaShirim would be in the holy section. And every pasuk is saying something much deeper than what it's actually saying. So what exactly is Shir HaShirim trying to say? When he says your cheeks are red, what is the metaphor? I get that's what it's simply saying, but Shlomo HaMelech is not here to tell us about red pomegranates. We could all tell that it's red, and the analogy is very cute, but what's the depth of the statement? Our rabbis tell us, Kefela harimon rakatech is really saying, even the rekanim, rakatech from the word rik, even the empty ones. You know why Hashem loves us? Because even the empty ones are mele'im mitzvot karimon. Even the rekim, even the empty, are filled like pomegranate is filled with seeds. And what over here Shlomo HaMelech is saying that Hashem loves the Jewish people. Because even the empty ones are filled with seeds of mitzvot. We're all filled with mitzvot. And the obvious question is, one second, if we're empty, then we can't be filled with mitzvot. You can't be empty and full. Either one. Which one is it? Are we empty or are we full? If we're filled with mitzvot, then don't call us empty. And if we're not, then empty is justified. But the idea is that everyone is both. And it all depends on your outlook. It depends what you choose to highlight. It depends what you choose to focus on. It depends what you choose to see. Every person could look empty. Every person could look filled. And both are true. Think about the people that you speak negatively about. That person, however bad they are, I bet you there's someone else that thinks that they're amazing. There's someone else that they're the best friend. There's somebody else that they praise them. Maybe sometimes a rabbi in a shul, when it's this person's wedding, or farah, or simha, or bar mitzvah, whatever it is, maybe the rabbi gets up and he praises that person. And you're thinking in your head, you're rolling your eyes like, yeah, okay, rabbi, if only you knew them like I do, right? So you're looking at this person as empty. The rabbi is looking at them filled with mitzvot. And which one is it? The answer is both. It depends which one you focus on. You're right, the person is empty when it comes to certain areas he struggles in. Maybe he struggles in prayer, he doesn't come to shul. Maybe when he comes to shul he's talking. Maybe the guy doesn't ever learn. Maybe the person never helps with tzedakah. Maybe the person, whatever it is. Maybe the person's bad in, struggling in their marriage. Everyone has empty areas, pockets that we need to improve on. No one's perfect. The question is, what do you focus on? What do you dwell on? Right? Kefela harimon rakatech. And Shlomo HaMelech is saying that if you want to have a good marriage, you have to learn to dwell on the rimon, on the fact that there's not empty, on the fact that there are pomegranates. If you want to love your spouse, right, Rabbi, I don't know what happened. I stopped loving my spouse. What happened is that you stopped focusing on the pomegranates. You started looking at the space in between. You started looking at the empty. And when what's in between the pomegranates? What was in between the pomegranates on the bottom of the me'il? In between the pomegranates was a little bell that made noise. When you look in the space between the pomegranates, then you speak a lot of gossip, you make a lot of noise. So we could look at people's empty spaces. You could look at a person struggling in their marriage, struggling with their kids, struggling in business, struggling whatever. And you could dwell and focus on that, and you could say, the guy is empty. Look, it's empty. So let me fill that emptiness, let me fill that void with a little gossip, with a little bell, with some noise. Or you could say, one second, it's true there's emptiness here, but there's also a pomegranate here. And when there's a pomegranate, there's no room for a bell. You can't talk when there's a beautiful pomegranate. And so the lesson from the Me'il for gossip is very powerful. Right? When we speak gossip, it's because we're choosing to look at the emptiness. So the Me'il, the pomegranates on the Me'il, the bells on the Me'il remind us, one second, this person that you don't like, it could be a family member, it could be someone that you're jealous of. And by the way, usually the people that we speak negatively about, they're people that we don't like. Okay? That's my guess. Go see if I'm right, but I think it's true. You never speak negatively about someone that you like. If it's someone that you like, you wouldn't talk about them, right? But one second, is it not true that they have the flaws of X, Y, and Z? It's true, they have those flaws. But why should I speak about those when they have so many other good things? That's the lesson. Everyone in life has many good things and many bad things. And the question is, which one do we harp on? Which one do we focus on? Which one do we dwell on? If I come home and I dwell on what my wife didn't do, it creates friction, it creates machloket, it creates less shalom bayit. If I focus on what she did do, on what my husband does, then that's beautiful. Then it creates more love. That creates rimonim. Which one do we look at? They're both true. They're empty and they're full. Depends where we focus. And of course, we should always strive for perfection, for better. We should always do our best to grow in areas. But the question is, when we speak about other people, when we look at other people, when we look at our kids, which one do we see? What do we see when we see our kids? Do we see someone who's disrespectful, who's fresh? Or do we see somebody who's beautiful? Somebody that's, that helps. Somebody, right? When we speak to our kids, what do we focus on? Your kid comes to shul and they're playing in the lobby the whole time. You go home, on the way home, what do you say? You're playing the whole time. What's wrong with you? What do you say? I'm so proud you came to shul. What do you see? They're both true. You got out of bed, you got dressed, you came to shul with me. Beautiful. Which one do you talk about? Which one do we highlight? They're both true. Both are true about everyone. Everyone. One of the birds that are not kosher is called the ra'ah bird. Ra'ah, what does ra'ah mean? Ra'ah means to see. Right? Ra'ah. Ra'ah, she's called the ra'ah is because it's a stork in English, I think, and it's called the ra'ah because she has amazing vision. Right? She could see very far. The Gemara says, how good her vision is? When she's all the way in Iraq, flying, she could see in Israel the dead animals. She could see in nevela, carcasses. That's how perfect her vision is. Sharp. Boom. She could see all the way down an animal, which one's alive, which one's dead. Wow. That's pretty good vision. That's great vision. And yet this bird, as good as its vision is not kosher. And the question is why? Why would a bird like this be not kosher? Wouldn't it be smarter, actually, if God allowed us to eat the bird? If you are what you eat, right? Let me eat the bird. Now I'll have better vision. I don't need glasses anymore, right? But she's not kosher. Our rabbis tell us, the Baalei Musar, they say, because this bird, it's true she could see. But what does she choose to see with her vision? What does she see when she's all the way in Iraq? She sees the dead animals. That's what you see. You see the dead animals. You didn't see all the good stuff? You see dead? You see bad? You see empty? That's what you see? Then you're a not kosher bird. If you see empty, that means something's wrong with you. That means you're empty. Why are you choosing to see that? Why are you focusing on the negative? Right? We have to learn to focus on. There's a lot of positive. You go to a trip to Israel. You come back. How was it? How's the audits? How's the audits? Yeah, nice, Not for me. I can never live there. It's just, so much X, so much Y, too much of Z. That's what you saw. That's what you saw. You saw the emptiness of Israel. Really, the pasuk says, "Ure'eh betuv Yerushalayim." David HaMelech encourages us that we have to see the good of Jerusalem. Ure'eh betuv Yerushalayim. When you come back from Israel, you have to say what was beautiful about the audits, what was good in the land, because everything has good and bad. And what do we see? That's up to us. If you see dead animals, then you're a not kosher bird, because there's a lot of other things that you could have chosen to look at. Why'd you choose to look at that? That was your choice. And so when we see people, right, and this is something that really the Lubavitcher Rebbe and this book over here, I can't tell you, my friends, how important this book is. You must get this book, right? This book over here, Positivity Bias, right? It's just a game changer, a game changer. But this is what his whole life was all about: seeing in people beauty, seeing in people something that's the pomegranate. It's true, they also have not, but what's deep down? What's deep down? A man once came to the Rebbe. He said, "Rabbi, I feel like a hypocrite. I come to shul on Yom Kippur. I feel like a hypocrite. All year round, I'm MIA, and then I come once a year." The rabbi said, "You're not a hypocrite when you come once a year. You're a hypocrite the other 364 days when you don't come." You see, the real you is the Jew who prays. That's the real you. The Jew on Yom Kippur, that's the real you. The other Jew is just that's not the real you. Wow. That's a paradigm shift. That's seeing someone in a beautiful way, in a healthy way. A man came, he said, "Rabbi, I feel like, all these people over here, that they speak, they that. On the outside they look nice, but Rabbi, deep down when you get to know them, they're very ugly." The Rebbe smiled, he said, it's true that, man comes from the earth. And the earth is the same way. On the outside, the earth looks beautiful. flowers and plants and colors and trees and different things. And then you dig a little bit and you see worms and disgusting mud and things, right? And the Rebbe said, however, if you dig a little bit deeper, you find something beautiful. You find diamonds. But you got to dig deeper. And so every person, when we dig deep, we could find mud and worms and ugliness and emptiness. But the Rebbe said you have to dig even deeper. And then you'll find that they're filled with mitzvot like a pomegranate. But that takes a willingness to dig. That takes a willingness to dig. And everyone, I could focus on the good and I could focus on the bad. What we focus on is up to us. You know, when we date, in dating, you could look at somebody and say, oh, I know them already. I know them. How many times I hear that line as a rabbi and I suggest to a guy or to a girl, go out with this person. Oh, I know them. What do you mean? You know, you went out with them? No, I didn't go out with them, but I know them. What do you mean? If you didn't go out with them, how do you know them? No, I know them from here, from there. Not for me, Rabbi, not for me. How do you know? Got to go out with the person. Get to know them. Spend a few minutes. Spend some time. I know them. You don't know them. You know the Avot, where did they meet their spouse? They all met at a well, right? Rivka was at a well. Rachel, Leah was at a well. Moshe met his wife at a well, right? Why at a well? The answer is because a well, on the surface, there's no water. You got to dig deep if you want to find something beautiful in water, right? In a person, if you date them, or you just see them here or there superficially, okay, there's just nothing here. Not for me, Rabbi. I know them. What do you mean you know? You got to dig. You got to go deeper. What are they good at? You know, I always encourage a guy or a girl when they're going out, they come back after the first or second, whatever date, I always ask them, what's good about them? What's good about them? What are their strengths? Do you know what their strengths are? What are their virtues? Now you know what they're good at and you know where they struggle. Now make a decision. But you can't just write them off if you don't really know what they're good at. You don't really know them. You just, like the bird, you just saw what's bad and then you wrote it off. You just nixed it. You put a little big red X. That's not life. You can't live like that. You know what? You're gonna be into problems with everyone. Even if you find the right one, you're gonna have shalom bayit issues if you have that mentality. Because then very quickly you find what's not good. It starts annoying you. Starts being a little bit, wow, why do they always do that? It's very annoying. I didn't notice that when we were dating. Okay, and then what do you focus on? So to get married, to have shalom bayit, to have all these things, we have to really start to meditate on the positive. That's the only way to succeed in life. That's the only way to succeed in anything. And that's the lesson from the pomegranates of the Me'il. You know, when the Jewish people fought, and I'll end with this. When the Jewish people fought Amalek, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu sat on the mountain, and when his hands went up, they looked up. The Jewish people would win. When his hands went down, they would look down and they would lose. Right? Now on a simple level, it's talking about they would look up and they would see Hashem. They would think of Hashem. They wouldn't see Him. They would think of Hashem. But Rav Yosef Nehemiah, he says something very beautiful. He says, we know that as Jews, our secret to survival is unity. That's how we win and that's how we lose. Unity, we win. When we're not, we lose. That's it. That's bottom line what it comes down to. And so, Moshe Rabbeinu, actually, when God sent him to go free the Jewish people, he actually spoke gossip. Moshe Rabbeinu actually made this mistake. He said, they won't believe me. Hen lo ya'aminu li. God said, really? They're not going to believe you? They're going to believe you. And he showed him two signs. What were the two signs? Anyone know? Sign one, his hand turned into leprosy. And sign two, the stick turned into a snake. Now both of those signs, they have a common theme. They both have to do with gossip. Leprosy is gossip. And the snake, gossip. God was saying to Moshe, look, you spoke gossip. You spoke gossip, Moshe. That's not what you shouldn't talk like that about the Jewish people. They won't believe me. It's not a way to talk about Jews. They will believe you. Be optimistic. Be positive. And Moshe was punished, and his hand turned into tzara'at. And so says over here of Yosef Nehemiah, when the Jewish people fought Amalek, Moshe would raise his hands. And when they saw his hands, they remembered, wow, learn from Moshe's hands. Moshe's hands was a reminder not to speak gossip. When they saw his hands, mistaklin kalape ma'la, then they would look at ma'la. Ma'la could mean Hashem, but could also mean ma'ala's virtues. When they saw Moshe's hands, they remembered that in life you have a choice. You either see someone's virtues or someone's flaws. When they saw Moshe's hands, they decided to look at each other's virtues. Mistaklin kalape ma'la. Ma'alot is someone what they're good at. Chesronot is where someone struggles. They would start looking at the strengths of each other. And then they started to love each other. And then they started to win. But when Moshe put his hands down, when they forgot about the hands, when they forgot to look at the strengths, they started focusing on the weaknesses. They started to have Lashon Hara. They started to have Machloket. And that's when Amalek wins. And so this is, I think, something beautiful, especially as we are entering this week, Purim Katan, where, because it's a double Adar, so we're not going to celebrate Purim this month. We're going to celebrate it next month. But this week is when it would have been Purim Katan. It's still a beautiful day of prayer and focus. And so as we enter the month of Purim and the holiday of Purim, to really ask ourselves, when Haman, Amalek's descendant, comes to the fore, what are we going to do to defeat Amalek? What are we going to do to defeat Amalek of today? The Amalek of today that we need to get rid of. That's not going to come, with just magic. That only comes when we do what we have to. When we start looking klape mala, when we start looking at each other's virtues, when we start looking at each other's pomegranates, not the space in between. When we focus on the pomegranate, then we realize this person is filled with good deeds. Wow. I always saw this person in a negative way. And I always spoke badly about them. But now I realize that I never really knew them. I never really knew them. Wow. This person's really, I'm happy I got to know them. They're really an amazing person. I judged from the outside. I judged. I didn't know there was, I saw from far there was the spaces in between. And Hashem should bless us to be able to focus and to really appreciate those that are around us. Now, of course, there are always exceptions. There are always people that are dangerous, but those are very rare. For the most part, most people are not in that category. Of course, if someone is in that category, if you have a question, you should speak to your rabbi about that, or to a therapist. But for the most part, people are they're not in that category of dangerous or toxic. There's just sometimes a little bit of family feud or just some ill feelings. Okay, we all have that. And Hashem should bless us to be able to see the ma'alot, and then we will learn to appreciate and to love when we see the pomegranates that each one of us possess, and then we will be able to destroy the Amalek and to love everyone the way they deserve to be loved. We'll stop over here. Everyone have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.